Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Drea. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Brit and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Faith Ainsworth, who is the owner of Integrated Sensory, a wellness center in Green Bay, Wisconsin that offers a variety of play and coaching-based sensory solutions. Faith and her husband Ian started Integrated Sensory in 2021 after seeing a gap in opportunities within her local community and within her own home. As a mom of 2 young rambunctious boys, she identified early on that they needed ways to meet their own high-energy movement and sensory needs, but at the time there was nowhere for their family to go. Now, Integrated Sensory has a large and beautiful space where they host a multitude of offerings for families with or without a sensory-related diagnosis, including research-based and drug-free sensory coaching, trauma education, infrared sauna, multi-sensory spaces, open playtime, and much more. We're excited to share these episodes with you as we go deep into the topics of sensory integration and behavior, tips for parents on how to support overstimulated kids, how trauma affects the brain and body, and a deep dive into technology and how it affects the brain. Faith is beyond passionate about serving our community and meeting families right where they're at, and we can't wait for you to meet her. So let's jump into today's conversation. Hey everybody, welcome back. We are here for episode 2 with Faith. Faith, welcome back. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be talking about connected-based sensory parenting. So in the first episode, we talked a lot about sensory integration, coaching, and how it can help kids as they're going through different sensory needs. So make sure you go back and listen to that. And I will tell you that it applies to kids of any kind, any age, any shape or form, adults as well, anybody. It applies to everybody. So, but in this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit more about parents and involving them. So Faith, your coaching facility, what does involving the parents look like? Are you primarily providing them education? Are they playing with the kids? Is it custom? What does it look like?
So it really is going to depend on the family. We have some parents where they actually will come in and they'll do the activities with the kids. So they'll come along and help spur their child along. We have some parents that choose to sit in the lobby, and that's okay too. We have some parents that just choose to sit and watch, but then they start hearing the terminology we're using and they start applying it back at home.
So is that kind of your ultimate goal, is to help teach the parents what you're doing in coaching and help them to be able to apply it at home?
Correct. Because when they learn some of these different behaviors and things like that, they're going to best be able to help their kids. One of our core values at Integrated Sensory is educating, because the more you know about your sensory systems and your loved ones, the better you're going to be able to help them.
For sure. Totally agree with that. Do you have a certain research-based program or philosophy that you follow for helping the kids and their parents?
So when it comes to parenting, how we deal with outbursts, things like that, we use something called TBRI. So TBRI is called Trust-Based Relational Intervention. We have a practitioner that we've partnered with. All of our coaches are actually certified as caregivers as well. And TBRI is actually an evidence-based, we'll call it a connected parenting method that kind of puts tools in your pocket as a parent to know, what do you do when these behaviors do happen?
That's powerful. I mean, and you could probably go through different scenarios too. Like if you go to the grocery store and that tends to be where they act out, what can you do ahead of time? Or, you could probably go through different kinds of things that they're going through.
A big part of TBRI is, what do they need? What need needs to be met?
Yeah.
So a big thing that we've probably heard from our coaching clients as well is that my kids started using their words and their voice.
Oh, that's good. That's huge too, because a lot of kids just don't know how to explain, or they don't know what they're feeling. right?
Right. They don't. And then, you know, for us, one of the terminology and the pieces that we use is asking for a compromise. So the child, rather than just, you know, blowing off and doing it whatever way they want, they can come and be like, can I have a compromise? And 9 times out of 10 as an adult, you're like, sure, you can play one more minute with the car and then do what you want.
Oh, sure.
You know, or can I have a snack first? Sure, you can have a snack before we do that.
Yeah.
It's a need that you didn't necessarily know about that they can meet without having the tantrum.
So I feel like this is like, you're not just helping the kids, but you're really kind of helping train the parents in a way. I mean, we can all use these kinds of like, at least awareness, you know? So like sometimes like, especially when they're kids, for me, I know like when my kids were little, it would be like, okay, we're done with that. We're doing this now. But instead, you know, sometimes it's nice to give choices, or like, I didn't realize I should be doing that.
Correct. So I will say that we do the very, very basic level of it. If you want somebody that it can like literally go into your home and like help make those changes, then I definitely do refer over to our partner.
Okay.
Just because that's like what she does.
That's awesome.
But we're like oh, what's that?
Yeah.
Oh, my child started responding to that. So used in conjunction, it's actually a pretty cool thing.
That is really cool. I don't think people realize that that's like an option.
What does this look like for educating the parents? Because I feel like they almost need their own coaching sessions separately. So how do you actually help them learn this stuff and then to be able to apply it?
So something we're actually going to be implementing in the next couple of months here is one of the sessions can actually be where we're going to like sit with the parent and they can ask questions and we can see where their progress is or if they need any help with the nutrition and things like that. And that'll be a good way to ask more questions about what's going on.
You talked about nutrition, which, I mean, nutrition is huge, period, for sure, for anybody. But like, how do you incorporate nutrition? What's your kind of philosophy on helping people with that?
So this could probably be like a whole nother episode.
Oh, I bet it could.
I'm actually finishing another certification, right?
Nice.
To be a functional genomic analysis. So a lot of our nutrition is supplements and things like that based on presumptions from genetic and behaviors.
Oh, so can you do a test for them? How does this work?
So right now we're just going based on the behaviors we're seeing because typically like when you see explosive behaviors, there's a good chance it's this. Or if you're seeing a lot of allergies, there's something else
like
going
red
on.
Dyes and
Correct.
Like, you know, the typical things, but could be also something else too.
And we try to keep it practical.
Sure.
Right now we have a slip that we can show you to go through like, yes, like let's cut out the red 40. But we're not necessarily about that you don't get to cut out the fun childhood experiences.
Sure, yeah.
Because like having, you know, cake at a birthday party or a soda is a fun childhood experience. It just doesn't have to be 40 grams of sugar for the can. It could be 5 grams from a poppy, you know?
Yeah.
And the kid still thinks it's just as fun. So.
Yeah. So you really make it more fun, like just more fun and just more functional for the family too. While
Correct.
Making it so that they can function well.
And it really is hard in our everyday today to get the proper nutrition, which is why we do add in the additional supplementation, which a lot of our stuff we offer liquid or things like that, especially we're in Wisconsin. So we're heading into D3 and K2 season.
Yeah.
We need a lot of it, especially if we have extra sensitivities. You might need a little bit more.
So is this included in part of your coaching? Is that like walking through the nutrition side with parents? And like you said, there's the supplement side, but then there's also like the basic nutrition and, you know, just how looking at dyes and looking at how much sugar intake their kids are taking in and just general education about nutrition. That can even just be a huge piece that can make a difference in behaviors. But how much of that do you actually incorporate into like a coaching package?
So we do just the base level with it at this point. So when we go through in that additional assessment, we're going to look at, okay, what's going on? What are some of the parent goals and how are some things? So typical ones we get is like, they can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
Again, we go back to the sleep. But have you tried magnesium? Or there's constipation issues. Honestly, magnesium is great for that as well. And a lot of parents, like they've never heard of that before, just because that's probably where we go into more of like the holistic realm. So, on the lookout for the future, hopefully we'll be able to do, more based on genetics. So just look and see.
Just
I can't promise
keep
anything.
an eye out there. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that you have such big ideas too. I mean, we had talked about this too. I was there at your facility just a few days ago, and there's a lot. It's beautiful. You guys should go check it out, but there's a lot of potential. Like you could have therapists there. You could have so many different aspects and nutritionists. And I think you said like speech therapists would be super awesome to come in too.
We would definitely love to add like occupational therapists, SLPs, and it just kind of adding them to the team. Because the biggest thing that we probably hear from our clients is that like they're sick. They're hard to meet all those appointments.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've seen it. We really do have the space to have a one-stop shop.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, for sure.
That would be such a blessing for these parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. One slightly different type of question that I have is a piece where I think a lot of parents do struggle, whether their kids typically have sensory needs or not, is like short-term phases, sensory phases that kids go through. So I have an example, like my daughter last year, she was 5 and she just went through this whole phase where she could not get over like the seam inside of socks. She had 2, maybe 3 pairs of socks that I ended up figuring out could work. And she just rotated between them and they got holes in them and they were well used. But it was just like this frustrating experience for me as a parent. Just put your socks on or just flip them inside out. You know, like, how can we figure this out? But also it was a phase that she had to go through and there was some sensory things going on. So as a parent of a child who maybe does not have high sensory needs on an ongoing basis and has this little phase, how can you support them, whether it's education or with their kids or like coaching? Is that something that you can help with as well?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's funny you use the sock example because I have had people, they're like, it's been 4 years and my kid won't put socks on. And I showed her one tool and then she's like, oh, these are now her favorite pair of socks because we're able to calm that area down. It's in our minds, like obviously, because that's like all we do. It's like, oh, this isn't that much, but we're definitely like with the coaching able to help point out little things like that. And the good chances is we might be able to discover some underlying things that you might not even realize are going on.
Yeah, that would be really helpful just to, you know, even be able to call and like consult you guys and just see what that would look like to work with you. And because I'm guessing your coaching packages can be short term or they can be long term. It's really dependent on the parent and the situation that's happening.
Correct.
So that I feel like gives a lot of hope to parents that are just going, you know, a little bit selfishly crazy because they can't figure out why these little things are such a big deal to their child, but they obviously are. And there's something that the kids need to be able to communicate to the parents. So you obviously are experts in helping to communicate with that. Do you have any specific like resources, like websites or books that you typically point parents to that they can learn from when it comes to sensory needs or just education on helping their kids through certain situations?
Oh boy. I'm a big fan. So if you come to our facility, you'll see, actually we have excerpts out of her book. But her name is Marty Smith. So she's one of the leading sensory and trauma OTs in the US. And so she actually has a book that's called The Connected Therapist. Super easy read.
That's good.
So she breaks it down into like everyday parents' terms, what's going on sensory wise in her own experiences to help you better understand how to help your child. So,
do you have like a link on your website at all for that? Or
I don't.
You should. You should.
Well, we'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Notes, yeah.
Yeah. I would also love if you have any quick tips that you could give parents who are listening to this today for just maybe a couple of common sensory needs that you guys see. So whether it's like anger or yelling or like certain stimuli, like loud noises.
Or even like biting nails or picking noses.
Is that a current challenge that you're facing?
Yes. Don't tell who, but yeah, my oldest for sure. Yeah, so there's like these little things that kids tend to do, or like if they're fiddling with things all the time, or I don't know, like you're probably used to seeing them do these things, or if they're afraid of textures or there's certain things. So
do you have any quick tips for common ones that you may see as to like something a parent could try at home today?
If your kid is biting, we'll go there.
Okay.
If they're biting you, they're biting other things, they're biting anything. I've heard some pretty interesting ones from eating like wood to other things.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't have to be eating wood though. give them something hard to chew, from a Hubba Bubba piece of bubble gum to an apple to they actually make chewers to have on them. So teaching them like it's not safe to like bite yourself or bite others, but if we need to bite, let's chew on this.
My youngest son, actually, when he was in like preschool and kindergarten, he kept chewing on, well, they were wearing masks too at the time. So that was like a whole nother thing, but he would like soak the inside of his mask from chewing on it, and he'd just like chew on his shirt.
Yeah, that's definitely a
So
flag.
they actually gave him, and we had it at home, like the chewing necklaces. That did help. He chewed through one.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, he stopped doing it as much. Sometimes he still does, which is interesting. Now I'm like, why? What triggers that? Like what? So now you got me really thinking about that.
I probably see it in stress responses a lot. So like, you'll see it like if they're out in public or stuff like that. They'll start biting things or biting other things, or like they're at preschool, so it's not like necessarily like the calmest environment in the world.
That's true. Yeah, and wearing a mask too when he was
Wearing a
that young.
mask is pretty intense and stressful for like a preschooler.
Well, it's also distracting too.
Correct.
What about like outbursts? And now, every kid is going to have tantrums here and there, but like outbursts in public, let's just use that example. Do you have any tips for a parent on how to help a child through that in that moment?
Remember that nobody else matters. Your child does. What does your child need that they're having the outburst? Typically, when you see kids with a lot of emotional outbursts, they're looking for something called proprioception. So giving them a deep hug or doing things before you go out is probably a practical tip. So
doing things as in like the movement based stuff.
Yep.
So getting highly, stimulated with movement.
So if they're young, putting their other sibling in like a laundry basket and having them push them across the floor back and forth, like a fun game. Having them go and swing on a swing set. There's something called a body sack where they can go in and stretch around in that for a while.
Okay, so it's almost like you have to kind of assess what your kiddo, if what's triggering them or what kind of behavior you don't want them to be doing, right? And then thinking about how can, thinking through that, right? Like thinking maybe, is there like a trigger ahead of time? Is there something that's making them behave that way? And that's where you can come in here, right? Mm-hmm, so like
definitely
when you say you have like packages and stuff, this is all customized, right? So it's like, you're not committed for 6 months necessarily. You're like committed to whatever it is that the coach tells them that they think needs to happen. So it doesn't have to be that long to help with these behaviors.
Correct.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I have another question that when it comes to, feeling like you're doing a good job with parenting, because that is just a whole different level, right? Like we always feel like we're failing in different ways, or the challenge is changing on a daily basis. But one thing that we can do is thinking ahead. So kind of like you were just saying, do you have any tips on helping to set boundaries with other friends or relatives for a child who is having specific sensory needs?
So I think again, so we're heading into like the holiday season here. Setting a time like when you're gonna leave. It doesn't have to be the forever staying. Having timers saying, hey, we're leaving in a half hour, putting your phone in front of them with the timer to say this is going, oh, we're leaving in 15 minutes. Oh, we're leaving in this, so that the person or the child is aware of what's going on. And using like tips like the blog that I think I just contributed to that one.
Yeah, that'll probably come out right around when your podcast is coming out, actually.
Yeah. So like having, earbuds in if it's loud or things like that. And then just accepting that even if you're, in-laws or whatever, like, oh, he's fine, he doesn't have any sensory issues, that doesn't necessarily mean it's true because you know your child best. So
yeah, I mean, that is helpful just to think ahead to the holidays, and even just, people who are not living in the same home as the child just don't have the same understanding of what they're doing. So, and people are maybe not always open-minded to trying different things outside of how they raise their kids, right?
Correct.
So thanks for diving into that. Can you share a little bit about how do people typically pay for coaching? What does that look like?
So we typically have two ways. One is personal pay. So you can just cash pay or with a card. Otherwise, the other thing we have in our area several contracts with something called CLTS. So it's called Children's Long-Term Waiver. So if your child already has a disability or something like that, they can help with paying for some of the costs. No guarantees. You have to work it out with your goal and your plan, but.
Okay. Yeah, that is helpful. So no insurance, right, at this time?
Not at this time.
Which is, you know what, but that's okay because we do what we have to do for our kids. And we also understand as small business owners, we're all doing our best to just make sure that these resources can be out in the community. But you do offer a complimentary sensory assessment.
Correct.
So what does that look like and how does somebody take advantage of that?
So for the complimentary assessment, the best way is to actually give us a call. You can find our phone number on the website, which is, it's 920-646-2582. I've said that one too many times. Or we do right on our main homepage, have a drop-in box where you can request a time, but it is preferential that you do just give us a call. So.
And what does that look like?
Yeah, what does it look like? And then are you diagnosing something? So if somebody is coming in and they're like, I wonder if my child might have some sort of a diagnosis, are you helping with that or not?
No, not at this point in time. We don't do diagnoses. We're not medical professionals. Are we educated? Yes, but we are not therapists and we're not medical. So
what does the assessment actually look like?
So the assessment is you're going to go in with one of the coaches. The parent's going to be there in the room as well. We prefer if the decision-making people are there. We do prefer if it's just the one individual or the child and the decision maker. When you get a lot of siblings, it gets a little chaotic. And then we're going to actually walk through the reflex testing and just generally observe and see if they're able to follow any directions or if they're having praxis issues. And then we're going to sit with the parents and explain what those are, answer any questions, and kind of come up with a assessment from there. So
awesome. Perfect. And what is your website so people know where to find you?
Yeah, www.integrated-sensory.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, we will be back with 2 more episodes with Faith. Stay tuned for those. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.